Hello. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been reading chapters from the book of Leviticus in the Bible. It's full of instructions that God gave via Moses to the Israelites about various aspects of life. It covers areas such as different foods they can eat, about relationships with one another, what they need to do if they have done something wrong, and how to offer sacrifices to God. In chapter 14, it speaks about how people suffering from leprosy in those days were considered unclean, and how other people would not associate or touch them or anything that the person affected had touched. If they were out and about, they would have to shout, "Unclean, unclean." We too can sometimes talk of people being treated like a leper, ostracized from the community and normal life. However, Leviticus outlines how the person can become part of society again after it has been confirmed they are clear of any disease. One of the actions they have to do is to go and be examined by the priest. Well, I don't think our ministers at Oakwood Church, Catherine, George or Debbie, would either appreciate or are qualified to declare someone clear of leprosy. Nowadays we'd go and see our GP or a dermatologist for a diagnosis and confirmation of a cure. As often happens in the Old Testament, the person and the priest also had to carry out certain religious rituals involving sacrifices, and to be isolated from others for a certain length of time. I believe a large proportion of the types of leprosy or skin diseases there are not as highly contagious as once was thought. Thankfully, also, most people now don't believe sickness and disease is God's curse or directly caused by a person's sin. As I read the passage, it brought to mind those who have been infected by COVID-19. I'm sure many of us have had lapses of the hands, face, space rules. We shouldn't assume those infected have been any less diligent. They're probably going over in their minds what action might have caused them to become so vulnerable. Let our thoughts, prayers and actions be on them having all they need to get better during their quarantine, and to be able to reintegrate into society when their symptoms have diminished and they have fulfilled the specified period of isolation. Then they can rejoin the rest of us under the general social distancing rules. We're told anyone, young, old, fit or weakened, can get infected by coronavirus, as shown by the many fit young students recently affected. So let us not think if we're not had the dreaded COVID, we are any better than anyone who has. Jesus Christ came to live in the world, and he particularly spent time with the outcasts of society of that time, the lepers, the government officials, prostitutes, and even women in general. He proved it was not actually against any of God's laws to do so. His main mission was to show that anyone, no matter what their background was, a way to come back to a full relationship with God, nature, and their fellow humans. Even in the rule-filled Old Testament, God provided a way for anyone who had been outcast from their community to return to full fellowship. In the case of leprosy, it was a priest's word that others relied on that someone was genuinely clear of it. Likewise, let us not keep people ostracized from living life in all its fullness, if those with the authority have said they are safe. The person has fulfilled any requirements, and all future precautions are followed. Be it the doctor stating that the patient is over the worst of COVID if their symptoms have diminished for the specified days, or the courts or probation service declaring an offender has paid their debt to society. In God there is always a way of redemption. Amen.